Hello and welcome to Creative Sparkle. My name's Holly and today we're doing an art journal prompt list, so grab your art supplies and let's get crafting. Hello and thank you for joining me today. So for today's page I just wanted to show you that something different can be done. So instead of doing just a normal art journal page, I decided to do the cover of one of my art journals. So the first prompt is going to be prime the surface if necessary for covering. So if you're working in a normal book, you don't necessarily need to prime your page, but I'm just going to do a layer of white gesso just because I want that surface to be workable. And I'm using a large brush just to get all that in the crevices because it's quite a porous surface already. So I'll get that put over. I haven't watered it down on this occasion, so I'm just using that full gesso thickness. So if you want to prime your page, if you want to do a cover like me, or you can do a canvas or just an art journal page like you normally would, then do that and get that primed if it's needed. So once that's dry, we'll move on to prompt number 2, which is to stick string or twine, etc. down in an organised manner. So I found some string in my stash, you can see here. I'm pretty sure I got this from the pound shop, you get 3 in a pack or something like that. I'm just using Mod Podge with a paintbrush and chopping the string down. So I'll put the Mod Podge down first, as you can see here, and then string will follow. So whatever you have in your stash is perfectly fine. You don't have to have something with as much texture as mine. You could use some normal string, or you can use some yarn, for example, if that's what you have available to you. Just have a look around in your stash and see what's there. So you can see here I've randomly gone over, but in an organised manner, as the prompt said. So it doesn't look too mishap. So yeah, I've stuck that down with Mod Podge, and then I am going to put a layer of Mod Podge over the string as well, just to make sure that it's all stuck in place and will stay where it is, because I've often found that book covers are a little bit more difficult to keep in one place. So you use what you have available to you and then stick that product or thing down however you wish on your cover. So I'm just getting those ends trimmed off for the end of the prompt. So the next prompt is prompt number 3, and that's going to be used plain, not patterned, tissue paper or paper towel, etc. to cover the layout. So I've decided to go into my tissue paper stash and use whatever tissue paper I have there. So it turns out that it's a bluey, tealy kind of colour. So I'm using the Mod Podge again to stick that down. So I put a layer of that down, and then instead of putting it directly onto the page, I scrunch it up a little bit with my fingers as I'm going along. So I just want to get a bit of extra texture in there, and then I will press it around that string that's down so that that comes out instead of having a layer in between that's an air pocket. So make sure that's all that's stuck down properly. If you wanted to have a straight layer on the background, then that's absolutely fine. You don't have to scrunch up the tissue paper like I have. You could put a full piece on instead of doing it in pieces like I have. You just do what you think is best for your page and use what you have available to you. So if you don't have tissue paper like I have, again, this particular pack of tissue paper is multicoloured and I got it from the pound shop, so it's very affordable. But the colour does run a little bit. But if you don't have that, you can use toilet paper, you could use kitchen roll, just use whatever you can find. You could even use newspaper if that's the only thing that you have available to you. Just find something that will cover that surface. So once that tissue paper is down, we move on to the next prompt, which is prompt number 4, and it's to use acrylic paint to cover the layout. So I actually decided that I wanted to prime the page first because the colour was running a little bit as I was using the glue, the Mod Podge. So I wanted to prime it just so that I didn't have the moisture tearing through the tissue paper and things like that. And I could have used white, clear gesso rather, but I decided to use white because I thought the colour would come out better. So the acrylic that I've chosen to use is a brown acrylic ink, and I changed my mind on the brush because that one wasn't doing me any favours. So I go in with my brush that I usually use for glue, so it's got a little bit more firmness than that feathery brush that I was just trying to use. And I'm trying to get in between all those crevices and those little creases that I created with the tissue paper. I did the same with the white gesso, using the brush to get in between all those cracks and crevices. So once the full page is covered, you can see here I do go over and make some of the sections a little darker, so just to give it a bit more interest and a bit more texture really. So you use whatever you have available to you, and you can do a colour block if you want. You don't have to add different layers like I have done. You just do what you think is best for your page. So prompt number 5 is to add a medium of your choice to bring out the texture. Now I've chosen Gilding Polish in the colour Copper Shine, and it's a Cosmic Shimmer one. And these ones come with a little sponge on the top, so you can use that to emphasise any texture. So I'm going to go in all over the pages, the book cover rather, and get those little creases as well as that twine that's the string that's prominent. So I want to get in between all the cracks and crevices and make sure we bring all those out. So you could use something completely different. If you wanted to use some ink with an ink pad, for example, you can use that, or you could get a sponge with some paint and just lightly go over. You could use a brayer and only bring out the simple lines from the texture. It's completely up to you how you want to do it. So once we're happy with that step, we'll move on to prompt number 6, which is to choose a focal image or piece that suits your project. So I have this napkin and I've decided to go with this creature. I'm sorry, I can't remember what it's called. So I'm just using a brush with water just to go around that, and then I'm going to stick it onto card with the Mod Podge, just white card, so that we can see that, because with a napkin, if you decided to put it on that background that I have on the cover, the brown paint might not allow for that image to come through as well. So I decided to do that on a white card first and then fussy cut it, and then I'll get that added to the book. So I'm just getting that surface dried, and then I'll fussy cut. You do have a little bit of pink on the tail, but I'm okay with that. So once I've fussy cut that out, we'll get that stuck down onto the page with Mod Podge. So the next prompt actually is prompt number 7, and it's to add embossing powder or glitter, etc. to the focal image, and then add. So I'm so sorry, I actually completely forgot this prompt. I wasn't paying attention. I was so involved with trying to get it onto white card, to get it onto the page, that I completely missed this step out. I'm sorry, I didn't do it. But, you know, it's my page, and if we want to miss one out, then that's fine. If you accidentally miss one out, then fine. Always do what is best for your page. So the next prompt is prompt number 8, which is to add up to 7 pieces of ephemera relating to the focal image. So I've gone through my stash and found these rub-ons, and there is a teapot in the middle, but I'm not going to use that. I'm just going to use the flowers around the edge. So again, I didn't want to try and get the rub-on to fix onto that cracked texture on the book cover, so this is why I've decided to get those rub-ons transferred onto white tissue paper, because I want that image to be able to come out and stick easily. So I'm getting those transferred onto the white tissue paper, and then I'll put them onto the cover with some Mod Podge. So you can see now that I'm rubbing them onto the tissue paper, and I will advise that if you do decide to use rub-ons, put something a bit more padded underneath, because it will transfer easier. So I did put an envelope under it, but you didn't see that part, and it does transfer easier when you're not on such a hard surface trying to rub it on. So that's just a little hint or tip for future reference. So now that I've got them cut out, I'm going to use Mod Podge, and I'm just going to use my finger to get them stuck in between those string and twine and the cracks and get them all stuck in there, and get that rubbed in properly with my finger, just so that I know that they're going to stick to the page well enough. So you can use whatever you have available to you. You could even just use a stamp or whatever ephemera that you prefer for your page. So once that's stuck down, we'll move on to prompt number 9, which is to add individual words to your layout in different places. So the words that I have belong to this little sticker set that I got online, very price friendly, very cost efficient, affordable, and I'm just pulling off the paper stickers. So they've got quite good glue on the back, but the front of them is paper, so they're quite easy to work with. So I'm just going to use Mod Podge to get them stuck down properly. After the first one moves around too much, I end up just putting Mod Podge on top of the other stickers rather than all over. And yeah, those stickers, I'm happy with those words, so I'll have them stuck down. And then prompt number 10 is to darken the edges of your layout to finish. So the 10th and final prompt, I am going to use Walnut Stain ink, distress ink, and with a blending tool just go around those edges. However, I thought that the vibrancy of the images was just a bit too much, so I did go over those slightly with the ink as well, just to rough them up a bit and give them a bit more of a vintage look. So I am happy with how the page turned out, even though I did miss a step out. Again, I'm sorry about that. But the full prompt list is at the end of the video as usual. If you do decide to take part, please do tag me on Instagram with the hashtag Sparkle Prompts. I would love to see your creations. And if you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. And I will see you next time, where we will turn your creative spark into a creative sparkle. Thanks. Bye.